Hey everybody, I don't even know why I'm making this video because I really didn't want to, because I think at this point I just have this sense of overwhelming futility. Um, it doesn't really matter what I would say about the real crisis we're facing now, which is not an opioid crisis of overdoses, it's an opioid crisis of doctors taking away adequate medical treatment. That's the crisis. Betraying their Hippocratic oath, like as if there's no decision to be even made. They are doctors treating chronic pain by the order of the Drug Enforcement Agency, by the order of our government, are withholding adequate treatment. They are causing harm to their patients. This is not an exaggeration. This is just plain, simple fact. It's just there's no dispute. There's no exaggeration. There's no conditions. This is exactly what's happening, very blatantly and conspicuously. There's nothing hidden. There's no mystery to it. Patients who have tried any amount of treatments for which, and unfortunately, we live in a reality that opioid painkillers are effective, and in many cases they're the only thing that's effective. You can argue the merits of that, or if that's a good situation or a terrible situation, but that's the reality, the unavoidable and unchangeable reality right now for many people. And because of some political agendas, politicians making up this crisis, because the crisis is not supported by numbers, by the way. You can do all the research in the world, and I'll explain one or two things afterwards, but it's not the crisis that they are talking about. Like, you hear the words opioid crisis on the news. Do you even know what they're talking about? Do you even know, like, what numbers they're talking about? How they've how they've created this statistic or whatever, and how they've assigned blame to the pill itself? It's all bullshit, complete bullshit, because politicians need something to use as their thing. That, look what I did, so reelect me. Anyway, but because there are many people who suffer without this medication, effectively, by order of our government, all doctors are being threatened. If you do not cause harm to your patient and lower or entirely withhold this kind of treatment, we will come after you and take your license away. And this is not an exaggeration either. This is not a joke. I have spoken to more than one pain management physician and been told, yes, if I don't reduce your treatment, I will lose my license very soon. It's just a fact. And even though there's no other treatment available, and you're on the bare minimum dosage in order to keep you functional and your pain not exceeding a certain level, that doesn't matter. It's inconsequential. If I don't withhold the treatment and harm you, I'll lose my medical license. Nothing I have said right now is an exaggeration. Nothing I have said is outlandish or a unique case or a fluke or a miscommunication. This is all exactly what's happening in the year 2018 in the United States of America. This is reality. And it's not like I can go to somebody and explain it and then I'll then get the treatment I need properly. This is the reality we live in, and I'm not okay with it, because I suffer. I am in chronic pain. I'm scared out of my mind, because I was seeing a physician a couple of years ago for a few years straight, a very good pain management specialist. She was really nice, and I had a certain dosage, and I maintained that dosage and maintained a semi-functional life. I'm still in the process of going through the appeal system to get disability, because I had to shut down my company of 15 years. I ran my own company, a successful tech company. I had to shut it down because I could no longer function. So I was seeing this pain management specialist, and I was at least coping, like I didn't want to kill myself. That's coping. That's the extent of coping. I could maybe, for a few hours a week, spend some time with my son. That's how I was managing when this whole fiasco began. They became just too scared, and they stopped prescribing any medication at all. And they changed their practice to just therapies. So I found a new practice, and they took over my treatment. But the first thing they did was immediately reduce by 33% my dosage. So off the bat, I immediately had a 33% reduction of, in other words, a 33% reduction of effective pain reduction or pain management. So I immediately began a lifestyle of being in more pain all the time. I'm not going to go into treatments or what else could you do. Well, surely there's something else you could have done. I'm not going to go into that because, yes, I have done everything possible. Now they're telling me, well, I should just do those again. It's ridiculous. And there's so many people who have my condition who are the same situation. This is the only thing that helps. But immediately, this is probably close to a year ago, I began seeing this doctor. Immediately, my 24 hours a day, every minute of every day and every night, I immediately was in more pain. And that was this is what they insist on doing. They refuse to do anything better. Now, as of my yesterday's follow-up appointment, my monthly appointment, by the way, I've never failed to take a urine test, and it's fine. I've never done anything wrong. Absolutely nothing wrong. I take as prescribed, and I've never exceeded, never said, oh, I run out early. It's never happened. I'm very disciplined with this. I don't get high from it or anything like that. You take it, the amount of years that I've been taking this medicine, to me, it's just to keep my pain under control so that I don't want to end my life. And as it is, all I can manage some days is 5 minutes of some chores or something. Some days are better, but right now, I'm just trying to stay alive from day to day and stay positive about my future and maybe accomplish some things. But that's all I have. So as of yesterday, I was told my medication is going to be reduced now, and it's going to be progressively reduced. Do they have any other suggestions? Yeah, they name all these things that I've done already, which failed. That's what they name. So and you're just going to continue to lower it? Yes. Well, what if my pain goes up? Try all these other things. No, we just discussed it. Okay, let's assume I do try, and they don't work. Go to the emergency room. So their suggestion is that from now on, every time my pain gets too horrible to cope with, I should go to the emergency room. So I'll basically be going like 2 or 3 times a week to the ER for the rest of my life. That's their answer. In other words, they don't have an answer. She was a little too timid to say, you know what, I'm sorry, I can't do anything because I could lose my license. You're fucked, and I know it and you know it, and I can't change it. She should have just been honest, but she kept, giving the runaround. But effectively, their goal now is to reduce you off of opiates entirely, even if they have nothing else in place. I said, what if, no matter what else I try, nothing is effective, and you're reducing this, and meanwhile, every day I'm in progressively more pain? She says, go to the emergency room. So she has no answer. And this is happening. And FYI, there has already been documented increase in suicides by people who are ill with chronic illnesses that cause pain and have been taken off of their medicine, or their medicine has been severely reduced. It's already known. People have committed suicide more in the recent couple of years. And it's getting worse now, because now basically every doctor is scared out of their mind, and they're just all trying to get away from prescribing opiates. Now, if you took the words chronic pain and replaced it with cancer or AIDS or HIV, or I don't know, you could name any amount of other terrible illnesses. And if you put this scenario and you just use those words instead of chronic pain, cancer patients, because the treatment contains ingredients that some people choose to take too much and they end up dying from it, I never chose to take too much, and I never told them to do it. So as much as sympathy as I have for the poor families of the overdose who cry to the politicians and say, make it all better, those people did choose to take those medicines too much, not me. But if you were to take this scenario and say, because of that, cancer patients' treatments are being reduced or even eliminated, imagine the outrage there would be. Imagine it happened with HIV. Imagine if these people started to experience more and more suffering progressively until they didn't want to live anymore. They couldn't stand to live anymore. Now you take that and you turn it back to the words chronic pain, and all of a sudden there's this attitude that it doesn't matter, it's fake, it's something else can be done. They just want this medicine. All the bullshit in the world you can if you have that attitude, then you're either ignorant or you're just an evil person. Somebody in one of the forums suggested the following term. He said, in America, for some reason, there's a stigma attached to unearned pleasure. And I found that to be very interesting because, yeah, there are people who take these medicines to where they're fine. They have no chronic pain. But they take these medicines because for a lot of people, for most people, it gives you like a slightly euphoric feeling for a couple of hours. And that's just one of the things that happens when you take these medications. Not to everybody and not to the same extent with everybody. And if you're in my situation where you've been taking for years, you don't feel that anymore. I don't feel that anymore. What I feel is a reduction of my pain. A good amount of reduction of my pain so that I can cope, so that I can move around, and I don't feel like I want to die. But maybe they think, because you know what, some people get pleasure from this, because the overdoses are there are people overdosing. There's also people overdosing on heroin. The way they get the numbers for people who they say are opiate-related deaths is any body that comes into a morgue, any body that has any trace of any opiate in it. They could have a gallon of alcohol in their system. They could have heroin and PCP, but if there's a trace of an opiate, they call it an opiate-related death. I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating. So the numbers are inflated by about 100-fold, and there are physicians who are testifying to this fact, and it doesn't matter. There are some politicians who, for whatever reason, this whole game they've been playing is their long-term plan to improve their job, or to their job security, or to continue in the position they're in, and nothing's changing that. It doesn't matter. And the casualties are all the people like me who I yesterday pretty much started to believe that, my future involves just laying in bed and crying, and then once in a while being able to spend a little time sitting in bed, maybe a board game or something with my son, and spend some time with my wife, but not going anywhere, never being able to do any work or a hobby or anything like that. And that's my future as far as I can see. Oh, and running from doctor to doctor, trying useless procedure after procedure, and just that's my life. Doctors and a bed. It sounds like a recipe for somebody to decide, you know what, I can't do this anymore, and I'm just going to call it quits. And I think, and this is crazy, but I think there's some savage pleasure being derived on the part of the people, the politicians doing this, knowing that they're doing this. It must be a rush for them to know they're exerting such power over people. To take millions of people who suffer and take away the treatment from them must give them some kind of a rush, because there's no way they can feel compassion, because all of the protesting and the objections from patients and doctors alike, they don't even say boo about it. They don't even talk about it. They don't even say we have to make sure these people aren't harmed. They have nothing. They've gone after the doctors with a fury. And basically, you have to eliminate these. If for many of your patients, if nothing else works, doesn't matter. It's a heartless, cold approach, because they somehow are going to make this into a success story for them as in their political position, and that's what it's about. So people like myself, and you should know something, I don't really think anything's going to come of this video. As I said in the beginning, I didn't even want to make it. I think I'm wasting my breath. Because like, what can you do? Well, people can call their the office of their senator, of their representative. You can make calls. You can sign petitions when they go around online. You can call the office of the DEA, and you can call doctors. Any doctor that you know, you can tell them, this is a terrible thing that's being done. Why can't you fight back against this? I know it's not like you're telling them and all of a sudden they're going to be able to do it. But if they hear it from everybody, maybe something will happen to fight this. Because people like, usually the people who are harmed most by something are the ones that have the most activism involvement. But unfortunately, I can't. What can I do? I can't go and arrange marches and everything. I'm in constant pain. I'm debilitated. I'm disabled. So it's kind of up to the people who are well to advocate for people like me. But the cynical part of me that unfortunately is cynical through experience tells me it's not going to happen, because just people are not going to raise a finger for someone else that they don't know. It's just not going to happen. It just won't happen. It's just not that kind of thing. I don't expect anybody to say or do anything on my behalf, because that's the world we live in. People have got their own things, and they just don't care. Or they care, they say they care. They care in their brain, but they don't care enough to spend some time doing something on behalf of someone else. There is, I think, one nonprofit or two nonprofit organizations that talk about this stuff, but they don't accomplish anything, because they can't accomplish anything. It's the DEA and the CDC have been told by doctors, by people like me, by actual patients, you're killing us slowly. And they just like, next. There's a heartless, empty indifference on their part. They've got an agenda, and that's what's going to happen. And the doctors are doing the same. The doctor I saw yesterday, she had a completely cold and empty expression to the entire thing. And my wife came with me, and she turns to me and just said, "Look, we're wasting our time, because this woman is clearly dead inside. Maybe she couldn't handle it. I don't know. Maybe she couldn't handle constantly having to tell people that they're going to have to suffer more." But if you were to replace the word chronic pain with cancer or HIV or glaucoma or any kind of terrible, terrible disease, this would be everywhere in the media. But why is the media talking about the opiate crisis, the opiate crisis, the opiate crisis? Why aren't you talking about the crisis of people who are suffering every minute of their day with severe, uncontrollable pain, for whom this is the only treatment that works, and it works, and they have always been responsible with it, and it has given them the ability to take back their life to a certain extent and be able to function as a person, right? And now that's being taken away from them, slowly, methodically being taken away from them, and causing them to resume the life of nonstop suffering. Why does no news outlet mention this? Not even once anywhere. It's not juicy. It doesn't toe the party line. It doesn't hoist up the political agenda. It doesn't do anybody any favors. But that's the reality, and I don't know how much longer I'm going to be alive. I don't know how much longer anybody like myself is going to last. They're worried about illegal drugs also. And you know what? I now will have to get my medicine illegally. So instead of safe, prescribed pharmaceutical... Oh, and by the way, all these overdoses they talk about, the numbers, those are not from people who got medicine prescribed to them by a pain management doctor under their care. None of them. It's all people who are taking them illegally, either because they like to, or because they're, because they got them because they're just drug addicts from prior to this, and opioids didn't lead anybody to be a drug addict. It's always been the hard drugs, the illegal drugs that people get into, because this stuff is prescribed and it's from a pharmaceutical company. And I've never abused it. People like me have never abused it, and yet being the one treatment that's keeping us alive and sane and well and functional and wanting to live, keeping our desire to continue living and being there for our families and accomplish something in life, that's being taken away from us because of completely fabricated scenarios. The lies about the causes of death, the lies about who is dying from this stuff. And what they're doing is they're causing pain and suffering, legitimate, tangible, real, right now pain and suffering. An immediate effect. They're causing depression, they're causing suicides, and they're causing people to go and enter the black market, the illegal drug market, more for reasons because they're desperate and they need it to live. So think about that. Think about calling your senator or calling the office of the Drug Enforcement Agency. Think about calling calling whoever, your representative, your local district councilman, whoever, and telling them that it's not acceptable, that the Drug Enforcement Agency is committing assault, they're committing heinous crimes, and they're committing murder. Because that's what's happening. There's no ambiguity here. None of this is an exaggeration or a twisted logic. This is exactly what's happening in a very literal and immediate sense right now as you listen to this. And it's continuing to happen, and our government is going to continue making this worse. Their plan is to completely take away these treatments. Now, for some people, they can get by without it. They can have something else. There's other treatments that work. I've spent years already trying all kinds of, including very invasive procedures. And nothing has helped me except this, but this does help. And it's medicine I use responsibly. So what is their problem with me? Why do they want me to suffer? Why do they want to turn my life into somebody who's disabled but can manage and is able to keep a positive, happy attitude about their life? Why do they want to take that away and make me want to end my life? Because that's what they're doing. Me and tens of thousands, I don't know how many. But that's what's happening right now in America. In this is the world we live in right now. Our government doesn't like the fact that some people are doing the wrong thing with medications, and therefore the people who need it have to now lose it. And I can't do anything about it. I now know what it feels like to be an abuse victim. I always have been very active socially, and I've been involved with some things that have to do with abuse, but it's always been on the behalf of others. I've never known what it feels like. Now I think I know what it feels like because I'm being harmed, and all I know that coming in the future, tomorrow, the next day, down the line, this harm is going to continue and get worse, and I can't do anything about it. Nothing. So that's where I am. So this is the future I face. It's been ground in stone. Nothing's changing it. Nobody's voice has been listened to. If you do a search on YouTube or Google, pain patients, Patients, not patients like I have patients. Patients, pain sufferers. And you look for, phrases like pain patients paying the price or being denied medication. You'll see article after article about what this is, but these are all like small articles and YouTubers that are just themselves vested in this scenario. You don't see it on the 7 o'clock news. You don't see a politician getting up there and saying, this has to end now. And by the way, trust me, those people in government have no shortage of medical treatment of any kind, if necessary. If the people in the Drug Enforcement Agency, if one of them were to come down with a debilitating illness that caused him constant pain, believe me, they'd get this medicine. They will have no, I'm sorry, you have to reduce it and not prescribe it to you. That's not going to be a problem for them. But it's a problem for me and tens and thousands, hundreds of thousands of people like me. And they're effectively killing us. They're effectively telling us, you know what, your life's going to get so bad now, you're not going to want to live it anymore. Here we go, start. And that's what I'm going through. That's what I've been going through already. And that's all I see in the future now. Because every doctor is scared because they're being harassed. They're being bullied by an agenda and being told, I don't care if it's right or not. Stop prescribing or reduce your prescriptions, or we'll take your license away and we'll ruin you and shut you down. Goodbye. That's it. That's the deal. No negotiations. So that's what our government's doing to us. So I'd like some feedback. I'd like to know what somebody's willing to do. Are you willing to call Washington? Are you willing to call the Senate? Are you willing to voice your concerns? Are you willing to tell them they're murdering people? I'm making those calls. I'm writing those letters. I'm sending those petitions. But it needs a voice bigger than just us, the people who are suffering. Because all we are, as far as they're concerned, they're just people who want to get high. Yeah. That attitude, that's just a savage, evil person who says something like that. And that's what comprises the people in charge right now. They're evil and they're savage and they're not human in the sense of having empathy and compassion. They don't give a damn. So that's where we stand. I'd love some feedback, some advice, some concern, or even just a, you know what, I'm sorry to hear this about you. You know, even just that. And I'd like, if anybody in the news, any journalists out there think that they would like to tell this to the public and to make the public understand that this opioid crisis is not what it's being presented as. I'd love to hear from you. And I wish all my fellow sufferers pain-free or at least better days ahead. And I sincerely hope that you're going to do well. I hope we all do well. Thanks for listening.